This is the dead house.
And in 1969, people wouldn't have written John Lennon.
Legends crowd the streets of San Francisco's Haight Ashbury district.
It's never dull in this neighborhood, especially on Haight Street. It is never dull.
Where the 60s are still alive.
It's a good place to learn who you are and then experiment with being that person.
And where you can stay at a bed and breakfast that has its own Peace Center.
Boy, if the walls could talk, there would be many a story here in this particular building.
Back in the mid-1960s, this was perhaps the most famous intersection in the world, the corner of Haight and Ashbury in San Francisco. Well, back then, young people came here from all over the world in search of love and peace. Now, some found it and some didn't, but that was only one chapter in this neighborhood's long and colorful history.
This whole row of Victorians are 1890 Cranston and Keenans.
Cranston and
Cranston
Keenan.
as in Senator Alan Cranston. It was his grandfather who did some of the nicest Victorians in the city.
Rachel Heller gives walking tours of the Haight. They begin at the Stanton Park Hotel, where a stadium once stood. In 1892, it was the site of the very first Cal Stanford big game.
People filled up the stands and the teams went out on the field to start the game and realized that neither team had remembered to bring a football.
So they couldn't play the game?
Well, they could. They found a sporting goods dealer in the stands who was willing to go into the city, which was a couple miles away at that point, and get a football, bring it back, and they played the game.
At that time, the Haight was the far western edge of the city.
For a lot of people, this was a distance. It was a trip out of the city for the day or for the weekend.
One of the biggest attractions was an amusement park called the Chutes. It featured a giant water slide. The Chutes is long gone, but many of the classic homes from that era still survive. Some have gained notoriety in more recent times.
This is the Grateful Dead house, besides being an 1890 Cranston.
The Grateful Dead house?
Yes.
Did they live here at some point?
They lived here in the mid-60s, all together.
Today, when you walk around this neighborhood, it's as if time has stood still.
Hello.
The cars, the shops, and even some of the people seem like they're only visiting the 90s as tourists.
Now, is your name really Stannis Fluoride?
Well, reality is such a confining concept, don't you think?
Stannis Fluoride is a self-described writer, illustrator, designer, and troublemaker. He created his own tie-dyed star map of the Haight, and he helps Rachel with her tours.
Now, this is one of my favorite spots to show people.
The corner of Waller and Cole.
Right, I call this the macabre corner.
The low light of Macabre Corner is this unassuming house.
A guy by the name of Charlie Manson used to live in this garage in a broken-down van. It was about 1967.
Not all of Stan's surprises are unpleasant ones.
Okay, Doug, I'm going to show you something that's a family secret in the Haight Ashbury. People who've been living here a long time either know it or they don't know it. But those who do only tell those who live around here, and I guess pretty much all of Northern California.
Carved in the sidewalk, unbeknownst to most of us who walk on it, is John Lennon, 12-5-69.
See, the number 1 and the number 2 are written in the European style, which means the numbers would have been reversed for month and date. And
So what, May
12th, 1969. And at that time, he was here. He was staying with the Jefferson Airplane in their house a few blocks from here. So there's a good chance. And think about it. I mean, John Lennon's the kind of guy that would stop and write his name in the wet cement.
And the Haight is the kind of neighborhood in which the Red Victorian can flourish.
This suite is our most exotic room.
It's not just a bed and breakfast inn, it's also a peace center where people come to meditate and explore their potentials. Cheryl Canfield is the Peace Center's director.
That's part of our idealism here at the center, to create that kind of place where we can inspire people to get in touch with what they can do in the world.
Or if you simply want a peaceful night's sleep, you can find that at the Red Vic, too.
Our rooms are done in themes of the Summer of Love, and we like to hold on to the idealism that came out of the Summer of Love.
All 18 rooms are different. Everything from the Flower Child room, to the Redwood Forest room, to the Japanese Tea Garden room. Even the bathrooms are unique. This one's called the Aquarium. For Cheryl, this neighborhood is the perfect setting to motivate people to have a positive impact on society. That's the mission of her Peace Center.
There's a mystique about the Haight. There's an energy here. I can't quite describe it. I don't know what it's all about.
For Stannis Fluoride, it's where he's been experimenting with being who he is for decades.
I'm the only member of my family who's moved out of Massachusetts in the last 270 years, and I could never live there again. I mean, I've discovered paradise.
And for Rachel, it's a good community in which to raise her family and to dispel some myths.
You know, a lot of people, I think, have conceptions of the Haight, which may or may not be true. When you're describing this neighborhood to somebody who doesn't know anything about it.
I'm not a hippie, in other words, and I live in this neighborhood. That's what you're getting at. Yes, I'm not a hippie, and I live in this neighborhood.
There's no doubt that fascination with the hippie era is the major draw for visitors to Haight Ashbury. But if you scratch beneath the surface, there's a broader picture to uncover. The Summer of Love was only one of more than 100 summers that have given the Haight its color.